1.2, baby. It's 90 degrees. Woo! I'm cooking the bloody thing. So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Like, come on. Let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Righto, tell you there, champs. Now, I wasn't actually going to get one of these iMacs, but I was not happy with any of the reviews. And also, actually, everyone reviewed the i9 model, which I may end up reviewing anyway. But I just thought, no one's really reviewing the base model or testing that out. So this is the base model, the absolute base, 8 gigs RAM, 8500 CPU, Fusion drive. Yeah, all that. And I haven't been happy with any of the Mac reviews so far that I've seen, just because they really haven't tested it. They really haven't pushed the limits, and I'm going to slam this thing and absolutely tell you the maximum performance. To sum up, somewhere around 130, 140 watts is its maximum. The only thing I learned from any of the other Mac videos is, hey, if you run Cinebench back to back, it'll run at 3.8, and it should be running at 4.7. And yeah, it would be thermally throttling at that point. Trust me, you'll find out why. So anyway, let's get into it. Let's try and mount this thing. Woo! Hello, fellas. Let's have a look at this base model iMac. Everybody's covering the i9 one. I want to cover the Acer base. And if you want to know how this games out of the box with the pathetic 8 gigabytes of RAM and the Fusion drive, hey, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to tell you how it performs out of the box like that. I will add RAM and I will add an eGPU as well. So I'm going to tell you how it performs out of the box. I'll tell you how that Fusion drive performs. And of course, with an eGPU and that RAM upgraded, I swear to God, I have seen so many iMac videos. And there's people doing, I don't know what it is about some Mac people. They have no idea what they're talking about. Like, they actually put in like 32 gigs of RAM and they put it next to the two 4 gig sticks, and they're not even running in dual channel anymore. I've seen 2 people do that. It's like, what are you doing? You got to be pairs. It's got to be dual channel. What the? You got to know your basics there. So look at those beautiful bezels, and look at this. Look at these bezels. Those bezels. Yeah. I'll tell you what. There'll be a few men, all right, that their appendage, wouldn't even be that big, especially when it's cold. So yeah, there's some big bezels, and yeah, we'll see how this Acer base performs. All right. So we are using about 65 watts on the CPU. As you can see there, it ain't going any higher those temperatures. It is on the limit there, 6 cores, 65 watts. That's about the limit there. It is maintaining its full burst speed, okay? But you got to remember, this is the i5 base model, 6 cores. Now, this is the ultimate torture test. And the fans here are running, not maximum, 2100, 2200. They're pretty high. And you can definitely hear it. Listen. You can hear it. I'll put it on max. Yeah, let's put it on max fans. Okay, so you can hear it now. Yeah, all right. So good news is no power limit throttling. I think it has a 300 watt power supply. I think it can use about 260 watts maximum. Although I don't know how it could ever use 260 watts because it's thermally limited as we speak right now. This is the thing, right? You have to run the GPU while the CPU's going, all right, to really test this out. So now you can see with the fans at maximum, 95 degrees still on the CPU. That's the fan's maximum. Still maintaining the 3.9. GPU is 79 degrees, 61 watts. That goes up to 65. So you're looking at about 130 watts total package before this thing reaches its thermal limit. Now, if I had the i9, as I said before, there's no way known that would not be hitting 100 in thermal throttling. That's just, there's a lot of Mac people that are confused that think if the CPU is above its base clock, it's not throttling. That's incorrect. There's no way known with 6 cores. And this torture test I'm doing here, running the GPU 100%, CPU 100%, there's no way known that would stay under 100 degrees with the 8 cores. It's not possible. The fans are at max now, and it's struggling to keep those temperatures down already. So it's definitely going to hit at least 100 degrees and then thermal throttle down Probably won't go below base, but still, it will be technically thermal throttling. If we have a look at the voltage to 1.1, 1.14, around there, it is quite loud when the fans are on max. And yeah, this is the ultimate torture test. Now, usually if you're video editing or stuff like that, no, you're not going to be running the CPU at 100% and the GPU at 100%. It just doesn't happen. This is the maximum thermal output of this package. Like you can see, 65 watts, CPU and GPU, that is the max. It's not going to give you any more, not with those temperatures already in the 90s. Add another 2 cores, you're going to easily hit 100. Now, the i9-9900K is capable of 4.7 all-core burst, all right? So if you've got a competent cooling system, it will do 4.7. There's no way known this iMac will do 4.7 all-core burst consistently. It's just not going to happen, especially if that GPU's lit. GPU's lit, it's not hitting 4.7. No way. So I am sort of impressed in one way that, yeah, we're not thermal throttling at all this i5. It's 6 cores going maximum with the GPU going as well. That's pretty good in itself. But the i9, you're still not going to get that maximum performance out of it. You're not going to get your 4.7 all cores, especially when the GPU's lit up. So yeah, that is what it is. That's the thermals of it. And yeah, I'll put the fans back to auto. And you'll hear yeah, you heard it crank down then. But then of course the temperatures will creep up. So yeah, that's about it. About 130 watts, that's about all it can handle. Okay, so while I'm running Firestrike, I just want to talk to you a little bit about this GPU. So it's the 570X or whatever, it's the base model. And it comes in with a clock at 1000, right? 1000 gigahertz. All right, but the good thing is you can actually install boot camp drivers, like from boot. Dog again. Doggy, please. You're very angry. You can install drivers from bootcamp.com or something like that. And you can increase the power limit and you can increase the frequency to 1200. I've done it instantly like that. Now, actually, did I say it had the RX 570? It's the 470. What the fuck? Is it really 470? Okay, so yeah, something strange there. You can definitely see here. It says RX 570X graphics, and here it's saying RX 470. Now, that's because I've installed like the bootcamp drivers. The bootcamp drivers are the latest drivers from AMD. Okay, so they're the latest ones. So they will give you a boost in performance over the ones Apple give you. Apple will give you like old ones. And I can tell you now, look at that score, 9,800 in Firestrike. It was only like 8,000 and something stock. So if you just use the drivers that come with Bootcamp, you will get around mid 8,000s and just over 8,000. And having the new drivers and overclocking it by 200 megahertz, yeah, nearly 1,800 extra score in Firestrike. So this would probably perform like the 575, and I'd actually really like to know how close it would be to the 580X in the top of the line model, because I don't think it would be that far away, although that does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. So yeah, for a base model with 8 gigs RAM, I expect to get more performance when I put 32 gigs in it. Yeah, I have to say it's okay. It's fine. And it did use like an extra 5-10 watts when I overclocked it by 1200. I'll show you the overclock I've done here. You can see I've turned up the power limit and I've turned up the GPU by like basically 200. I gave it like nearly 150 or 200 on the memory clock as well. And it increased the temperature, went in the 80s where usually it was in the 70s. So it was a little bit hotter. Also it used 5 to 10 watts more. So instead of using 60, 65, it was using 70, 75 watts. So yeah. All right, so this iMac is getting slammed now. Prime 95, small FFTs, non-AVX, all right? So we can see it's capping out at 3.89 gigahertz. That is perfect because there are actually 4 chips you can buy. So there's 3 i5s. You got the 8500, the 8600, and then you got the 9600, and then you also had the 9900K. This is the base model, has the 8500. All core burst maximum 3.9. The next model up, i5 8600, 4.1 all core burst maximum. Could that achieve 4.1 all core burst. It'll be on the edge because you can see here, we're in the 90s. If you have a look down here, we're in the 90s, 93 degrees. What do we got? 61 watts, up to 67 watts, small FFTs. If you just run Cinebench, it's not even going to do anything. You need to run Prime 95, small FFTs. You need to really pummel it. Now the phones are quite low. It's going at 1300 RPM. Can you hear it? Yes, it's certainly audible. Now, to cut a long story short, if you max the fans out, I already know, it'll go from the 90s, the low 90s, into the mid to high 80s, okay? Over a long run, it's still going to creep up into the, mid 80s. And what do we got? We got 90 degrees still, but it will go down to about 85, something like that. And listen. So that's 2,700 RPM. So what do we got here? We still got 87 degrees, gone down to 85 for the package now. And that's about where it sits. It's gone back up to 87 now. It'll creep up and down, 85, 87. There, let's just turn those fans up. You got to trust me on that. I don't crap anyway. You got 85 degrees. Can you get 4.1? Probably. You could get it in the 8600. The top tier model you can order has another i5, and that's the 9th generation, because the first two are 8th generation, so 8500, 8600, both 8th generation. The last tier, the best tier, has a 9600 CPU, which is 9th generation. Now that can burst to 4.3 all cores, and it is indeed 6 cores, and all the i5s, none of them have hyper-threading, okay, so none of them have it. Could this reach 4.3 all core burst? I doubt it could sustain it in Prime 95. It'll be touch and go. If the GPU's lit up with the 8500 and the 8600, yeah, it might still reach its top speed all core burst. But moving on to the i9 9900, that is a CPU I know inside out. I've made a few videos on it, and I've been able to overclock that to like 5.4. Now it was stable at 5.4, gaming stable at 5.4. However, it would thermal throttle. Like if I played a game at 5.4, it'll throttle, reach 100 degrees, throttle back down to 4.8 and then go up to 5.4. It would never crash, but it would thermal throttle. At that point, when you push 5.4 and you run Cinebench on it, which it will throttle in Cinebench, don't worry about that, it can push over 250 watts, all right? 250 watts. You've only got 65 watts in here. I've said before, you only get about 130, 140 max, I reckon. If you use CPU and GPU at once, that's about the maximum you're going to get. And I think it has to balance from there. Now, 300 watt power supply, it's supposed to have 260 something watts, maximum CPU usage. Maybe there's something different with the i9 model. Maybe it can use more power, but certainly this one here, maximum looks like CPU, GPU. As I've shown you before, it's probably the max of 140, 150 watts. And that's with this running at 3.9. Yeah, it could maintain 3.9. It would not go under 3.9. But it was on the limit. Even when you put the fans on max, it was in the 90s. So I doubt you'll get 4.1, 4.3, no chance with the GPU lit up. And when it comes to the i9 9900, that can burst 4.7 all cores, okay? 8 cores too, no chance. There's no chance, small FFTs, you pummel that, it'll be able to do 4.7. No, it won't be able to do it. This struggles to put 67 watts in. Imagine that, 8 cores, 4.7, you could be pushing up around 140, 160 watts at that point. That's its maximum with the GPU. Like I told you, it's about 140 watts. Yeah, I doubt the CPU alone would be able to push 140, 160 or something like that. If you're doing small FFTs, 100% it's going to be like 160 watts at 4.7. So will it be thermal throttling? No, there's no power limit throttling whatsoever. 300 watt power supply. It's just a thermal envelope. You're just going to have to balance within that, 140 watt, maybe 150. But yeah, you're not going to get 4.7 all cores. No chance there. So it is technically throttling, thermal throttling. Yes, if that was at 4.7 all cores, it would be 100 degrees. It would be thermal throttling. But is it throttling below its base? No. The base is a load of crap. You don't talk about the base in a desktop because the bases are so low and they should be able to boost all the time. This should be able to do 4.7 all the time. with the 8 cores. That's what a desktop should do. Even if you get an air cooler, you should be able to do 4.7 in like a regular PC. It will have to be a good air cooler, but it will be able to do it. So there's no magic here. It is still good. Make sure you stay tuned for my gaming review, my content creation review. I'm going to really slam this, put an eGPU on it, compare it to a MacBook Pro, compare it to a PC the same price, compare it to a higher end PC. Yeah, you're going to know. Catch you in the next one. Tally ho. Alright, let's go. PUBG, baby, PUBG. Now we're playing at high settings. I was actually testing at medium to start off with, and just ignore the GPU telemetry. It's wrong. I don't know why it's reading. It's not using 8.8 watts. I don't know what's happening there. But anyway, I'm going to overclock this now, and we'll see what sort of benchmark difference we get. Just a quick, 60-second benchmark. We usually do a 3-minute one, but we'll just do a 60-second one, and we'll see. Alright, so let's benchmark this now. Now have a look here. We're at least getting nearly 60 frames per second, okay? Now this is at high settings. That's pretty good. 60 frames per second. RX 570. It's the base model, so it's nothing special. Let's see if I can overclock it. If it'll play cricket. 1200, and we're at 1700. We'll go to 1800 on the memory. Boom! Straight away. Gone from 60. Now we're up to 75, and there you can see 1.2, baby. It's 90 degrees. Whoo! I'm cooking the bloody thing. It's not meant to go that high. You can see here, yeah, you crank up, and that just shows you. If you got the RX 580, I'll just do a quick benchmark. If you got the RX 580, are you benchmarking for me? Come on. Oh, how do I escape that screen? That's alright. Yeah, so you saw before, it was 60 frames per second. Now we're getting 70 frames, not nearly 10 frames per second difference. That's 1000 stock, but look at that, 90 degrees though. We've gone up to 90 degrees, just overclocking that to the 1.2. Now usually, now if I crank up the fans, I can bring that temperature down, because it's not even running fast at the moment. I don't think the GPU is meant to run at 90 degrees, so best idea is to actually, crank up that fan. I wouldn't want to run it at 90 degrees all the time. So we'll just keep ringing rosy, but you can see 10 frames per second difference.